The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was in my office at the Department of Defense facility in Alexandria, reviewing classified procurement documents for a congressional briefing. My phone buzzed.
Mom.
I almost didn't answer. I was on a deadline, but family calls during work hours usually meant something was wrong.
Mom.
Kira, we need to talk about Thanksgiving. I leaned back in my chair, already sensing where this was going. Okay. Your sister is bringing someone special this year. His name is Derek. They've been dating for 3 months, and she's very serious about him. That's great. I'm happy for her. He comes from a very successful family. His father owns a private equity firm. Derek himself is a senior analyst at a major investment bank. Madison really wants to make a good impression. Madison, my younger sister, the favorite, the one with the right degree from the right school, the right job, the right everything. Mom, what does this have to do with me? She hesitated. I could hear her choosing her words carefully. Madison thinks it might be better if you didn't come to Thanksgiving this year. She's worried that, well, she wants Derek to see our family in the best light possible. And you know how you are. I sat forward. How I am. You work for the government. You wear those same 3 outfits. You drive that old car. You live in that tiny apartment. Derek's family is very successful, and Madison doesn't want him to think we're struggling. The words hit like a physical blow. So Madison thinks I'm an embarrassment. Don't be dramatic. It's just that this is really important to her. First impressions matter. She's worked so hard on her career, and she finally found someone on her level. She doesn't want anything to complicate things. Anything.
You mean me?
Kira, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's just one Thanksgiving. We'll do something small at Christmas. Just the 4 of us. But this year, Madison needs the spotlight. You understand, don't you? I understood perfectly. And Dad agrees with this? Your father thinks we should support Madison's relationship. This could be very serious. We don't want to jeopardize it. I sat in silence for a moment, looking at the classified briefing materials on my desk. The congressional testimony I'd be giving next week. The 3-year project I'd just completed that would save taxpayers $200 million. The security clearance badge hanging around my neck.
Kira.
Are you there? I'm here. So you understand? You're okay with this? I understand completely. Thank you for being mature about this. Madison will be relieved. She was worried you'd make a scene. I hung up without saying goodbye. Madison and I had never been close. She was 3 years younger, but you'd never know it from the way our parents treated us. Madison was the golden child from birth. Pretty, charming, socially adept. She'd gone to an expensive private college on our parents' dime, majored in marketing, and landed a job at a prestigious advertising firm in Manhattan. She made good money, probably around $80,000 a year, and lived in a nice apartment in Brooklyn that our parents helped subsidize. She wore designer clothes, went to trendy restaurants, posted constantly on social media about her amazing life. Our parents were obsessed with her. I, on the other hand, had gone to a state school on scholarships. I'd majored in systems engineering. I'd graduated with honors and immediately been recruited by a defense contractor, which led to my current position as a senior procurement analyst for the Department of Defense. I lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in Alexandria. I drove a 10-year-old Subaru. I shopped at Target and cooked my own meals. I didn't post on social media. I didn't go to fancy parties. I had a top-secret security clearance and briefed members of Congress on multi-billion-dollar defense programs. But to my family, I was the boring one. The one with the government job. The one who didn't understand fashion or networking or living your best life. Madison had made her opinion clear over the years. Still wearing that same blazer, Kira? You really should invest in your appearance. First impressions matter. I don't understand how you can be happy living so small. My parents echoed her sentiments. Why can't you be more like your sister? Mom would say, Madison knows how to present herself. Your sister's doing very well for herself, Dad would add. Maybe you should think about a career change. Government work doesn't pay like the private sector. They had no idea what I actually did. They never asked. When I tried to explain my work, their eyes glazed over. Government stuff was boring. Madison's latest marketing campaign for a luxury handbag brand was exciting. So I'd stopped trying to explain. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was the nature of my actual work. I wasn't just a government employee. I was a senior procurement analyst specializing in classified defense systems. I had one of the highest security clearances in the federal government. I worked on programs so sensitive that most members of Congress didn't even know they existed. My current project involved restructuring procurement contracts for next-generation satellite defense systems. The program was worth $3 billion. My analysis had identified inefficiencies that would save taxpayers $200 million over the next 5 years. Next week, I was scheduled to brief the Senate Armed Services Committee on my findings. The work was intense, demanding, and absolutely critical to national security. I regularly interfaced with generals, admirals, and senior White House officials. My recommendations influenced decisions at the highest levels of government. I made $135,000 a year, with benefits and a pension that would be worth millions over my lifetime. I had job security that private sector employees could only dream of. I had the respect of some of the most powerful people in Washington. But I drove an old car and wore the same 3 blazers, so my family thought I was unsuccessful. I never corrected them because, frankly, I couldn't. Most of my work was classified. I couldn't tell them about the programs I worked on, the people I briefed, or the impact of my analysis. National security wasn't something you bragged about at family dinners. And after years of being dismissed and compared unfavorably to Madison, I'd stopped wanting to share my accomplishments with them anyway. They'd made their assessment of me. I'd let them keep it. The week before Thanksgiving was brutal. The congressional briefing went well. Senator Richardson personally thanked me for my work and mentioned my analysis in a committee hearing. The Undersecretary of Defense sent a commendation letter that would go in my personnel file. It was one of the best professional weeks of my career. My family group chat was full of messages about Madison's Thanksgiving preparations. Madison, Derek is so excited to meet everyone. I told him all about our family traditions. Mom, I'm making all of Derek's favorite dishes. Madison sent me a list. Dad, looking forward to meeting this young man. Sounds very impressive. Madison, Mom, did you get those fancy napkins I sent you the link for? I want the table to look perfect. Mom, yes, honey. Everything will be beautiful. No one mentioned my absence. No one asked how I was spending the holiday. I was simply erased from the family narrative. On Wednesday afternoon, I received an email from my director. Kira, excellent work on the Senate briefing. The secretary was very impressed. We'd like to discuss a promotion opportunity in January. You're being considered for the Senior Executive Service track. Let's schedule time to talk after the holidays. You've earned this. I read it 3 times. The Senior Executive Service was the top tier of federal civilian leadership. It was the equivalent of making general or admiral in the military. It came with significant authority, a substantial pay increase, and direct access to cabinet-level officials. I was 32 years old, and I was being considered for one of the most prestigious positions in government service. I closed my laptop and looked around my office. Awards on the wall. Commendation letters. Photos of me with senior defense officials and members of Congress. My family thought I was an embarrassment. I laughed. Actually laughed. I spent Thanksgiving morning working out, then made myself a simple meal. Turkey breast, roasted vegetables, a glass of wine. I ate in comfortable silence, catching up on reading I'd been putting off. Around 3 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Kira Jensen? Yes, who's this? This is Derek Morrison. I'm dating your sister Madison. I sat up straight. Okay. I need to talk to you. In person. Today. It's urgent. I'm sorry. What is this about? I can't explain over the phone. Please. I'm in Alexandria right now. Can I come to your apartment? I have your address from Madison's phone. This was bizarre. Derek, I don't even know you. Why would you? Please.
His voice was strained.
I made a terrible mistake, and I need to fix it before it's too late. Your sister doesn't know I'm calling. Your parents don't know. But I can't. I can't be part of this. Part of what? 20 minutes. Please. I'm begging you. Against my better judgment, I gave him my address. Derek Morrison arrived at my apartment at 3:47 p.m. I watched from my window as he parked a BMW and walked toward my building. Tall, good-looking, expensive suit. Exactly what I'd expected. He knocked. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. You have 5 minutes to explain what this is about. He looked exhausted. Can I come in? Talk from there. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay. I'm Derek Morrison. I've been dating your sister for 3 months. I met her at a networking event in September. She told me about her family, successful parents, close-knit, traditional values. She invited me to Thanksgiving, said it was a big deal, that she wanted me to meet everyone. And 2 weeks ago, she told me about you, her older sister. She said you were difficult, that you didn't really fit with the family, that you'd probably be at Thanksgiving, and I shouldn't take anything you said seriously because you were jealous of her success. I kept my face neutral. Go on. Then last week, she said you weren't coming after all. Said you were busy with work. I thought it was weird, but I didn't push it. Madison seemed relieved. Derek, why are you here? He looked me directly in the eyes. Because this morning, I overheard your mother talking to your father. She said, I'm so glad we convinced Kira not to come. Madison was right. She would have embarrassed us in front of Derek's family. And your father said, poor Kira. But she understands. This is Madison's time to shine. My stomach tightened. I asked Madison about it. She tried to brush it off, but I pushed. She finally admitted that they'd uninvited you. That they told you not to come because I was coming and they didn't want me to see the unsuccessful sister. She said it like it was no big deal. Like you were an inconvenience they'd solved. I see. So, I did something I probably shouldn't have done.
I Googled you.
Oh no. The first result was a Department of Defense press release from last week. Senior Analyst Kira Jensen briefs Senate on defense procurement reforms. There's a photo of you with Senator Richardson and the Undersecretary of Defense. I said nothing. Then I found an article in Federal Times about your work restructuring satellite defense contracts. It mentions your top-secret clearance and your role in saving taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. He pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. Then I found your LinkedIn, which you apparently never update. But it's all there.
8 years at DoD.
3 commendations. Congressional testimony. Senior procurement analyst. Top-secret SCI clearance. I remained silent. Your sister told me you were a low-level government employee who couldn't afford to live in the city. She implied you were barely getting by. Your parents acted like you were the family disappointment. And now you know differently. Now I know you briefed the Senate on billion-dollar defense programs. Now I know you have one of the highest security clearances in the federal government. Now I know you work on classified national security projects. Derek, why are you telling me this? He looked genuinely upset. Because I can't be with someone who treats their family like this. I can't sit at that table knowing they uninvited you because they're ashamed of you when you're the most accomplished person in the room. It's sick. It's wrong. And I won't be part of it. So, what are you going to do? I'm going back there right now. I'm going to tell them exactly who you are and what you do. I'm going to make them understand what they've done. And then I'm going to leave. You're going to break up with Madison over Thanksgiving dinner? I'm going to break up with Madison because she's the kind of person who would erase her own sister to impress a guy she's known for 3 months. That's not someone I want to build a life with. I studied him for a long moment. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. This is wrong. And I need your permission to tell them what I know. I realize your work is probably sensitive, and I don't want to violate any of your boundaries. But they need to know the truth. I thought about it. The professional side of me knew I should stop him. Keep my work private. Maintain operational security. But the human side, the sister who'd been uninvited from Thanksgiving, the daughter who'd been called an embarrassment, wanted them to know. You can tell them I work in defense procurement, I said carefully. You can mention my congressional testimony and my security clearance level. You can tell them I brief senior officials. But don't mention any specific programs. That's classified. He nodded. Understood. Derek, they're going to be furious with you. I don't care. Madison will never forgive you. Good. She doesn't deserve forgiveness. I almost smiled. You're going to ruin Thanksgiving. They ruined yours first. Derek left my apartment at 4:15 p.m. He said he'd call me afterward to let me know what happened. At 5:47 p.m., my phone started ringing.
Mom.
I didn't answer.
Dad.
Didn't answer. Madison. Definitely didn't answer. At 6:03 p.m., Derek called. I did it. And I waited until everyone was seated at the table. Derek's parents, Madison's parents, Madison. 8 people total. Your mom had just finished saying grace. What did you say? I said, before we eat, I need to address something that's been bothering me. I understand that Madison's sister Kira was uninvited from this dinner because the family was concerned about the impression she'd make on me and my family. I held my breath. Your mother went white. Madison tried to interrupt, but I kept talking. I said, I spent this afternoon learning about Kira's work. She's a senior analyst at the Department of Defense with a top-secret security clearance. She briefs the United States Senate on billion-dollar defense programs. She works on classified national security projects. Last week, she testified before Congress. How did they react? Your father said, that's not possible. Kira works a basic government job. So I showed them the articles on my phone. The Federal Times piece. The DoD press release with her photo next to the Undersecretary of Defense. Your LinkedIn showing 8 years of increasingly senior positions. And then, your mother started crying. Madison was screaming at me, asking how I could do this, saying I was ruining everything. My own father looked disgusted. Not with you, with them. He said, you uninvited your daughter because you were ashamed of her government service? Do you have any idea how difficult it is to obtain a top-secret clearance? How much responsibility that represents? I sat down on my couch. I told them I couldn't be with someone who would treat their family this way. I told Madison I was leaving and that we were done. My parents left with me. Your family was still sitting there in shock when we walked out. Derek, you didn't have to destroy your relationship over this. Yes, I did. My father was in the Navy. He spent 30 years in service to this country. The idea that your family dismissed your work, dismissed you because they don't understand what you do? It's offensive. It's ignorant. And it's unforgivable. Thank you, I said quietly. Don't thank me. I should have asked more questions from the beginning. I should have seen through Madison's version of events. I'm sorry you've been dealing with this. We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. This time, I answered. Mom's voice was frantic. Derek Morrison just ruined Thanksgiving. He showed up with these insane stories about your job and... They're not stories, Mom. They're facts. You never told us you were doing anything important. You never asked. That's not fair. You said you worked in government procurement. We thought. You thought I was unsuccessful because I don't live Madison's lifestyle. You assumed I was a low-level employee because I drive an old car and live simply. You never once asked what I actually do. Well, how are we supposed to know you were doing whatever Derek said you were doing? You could have shown interest in my life. You could have asked about my work. You could have treated me like I mattered. Of course you matter. You're our daughter. Then why did you uninvite me from Thanksgiving? Silence. Mom, you told me I was an embarrassment. You said Madison didn't want me there because I'd make her look bad to her boyfriend. You chose her comfort over my presence. It was just one dinner.
No, it was a choice.
You chose to exclude me rather than defend me. You chose to believe I was unsuccessful rather than ask about my success. You chose Madison's version of reality over me. Kira, please. We made a mistake. We didn't understand. You didn't want to understand. There's a difference. I hung up. Over the next 3 days, the calls kept coming. Dad tried the logical approach. Kira, we need to discuss this situation rationally. Obviously, there was a miscommunication about your job. If you'd been clearer about your responsibilities. Dad, I testified before Congress. It was public information. You never looked. Well, we didn't know we should look. You didn't care enough to look. Madison tried anger. You ruined my relationship. Derek broke up with me because of you. He embarrassed me in front of his parents. How could you do this to me? I didn't do anything to you, Madison. I wasn't even there. Derek made his own choices based on how you treated me. This is all your fault. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous of what? Your advertising job? Your Instagram life? Madison, I brief 4-star generals. I work on programs that protect national security. I don't need to be jealous of you. She hung up on me. Mom tried guilt. Your sister is devastated. She really loved Derek. Can you please call him and explain that this was all a misunderstanding? It wasn't a misunderstanding, Mom. You uninvited me because you were ashamed of me. That was intentional. We weren't ashamed. We just thought. You thought I was unsuccessful. That's the same thing. Various aunts and uncles called after hearing the story. Most were supportive. Aunt Rachel, I always knew you did something important. Your mother bragged about Madison constantly, but barely mentioned you. I should have asked more questions. I'm sorry. Uncle Tom, your dad told me you work on classified defense stuff. That's incredible. I was Navy, so I know what that clearance means. You should be proud. Cousin Hannah, Madison is posting on Instagram about how her family sabotaged her happiness. Everyone in the comments is roasting her. Someone found the articles about your congressional testimony and posted them. It's not going well for her. 5 days after Thanksgiving, my entire family showed up at my apartment unannounced. Mom, Dad, and Madison, standing in the hallway outside my door at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. We need to talk, Dad said. You should have called first. You're not answering our calls, Madison snapped. Because I don't want to talk to you. Mom's eyes were red from crying. Kira, please. We're family. We need to work this out. Do we? Of course we do, Dad said. We made a mistake.
We're sorry.
But this has gone on long enough. It's time to move past it. Move past it, I repeated. Just like that. What else do you want from us? Madison demanded. You got what you wanted. You humiliated us. Derek broke up with me. Everyone knows what happened. Isn't that enough? Madison, I didn't humiliate you. You humiliated yourself. By not knowing about your secret important job? How are we supposed to know if you didn't tell us? I try to tell you. For years. Every time I mentioned my work, your eyes glazed over. Every time I had a professional accomplishment, you changed the subject to talk about Madison's latest campaign or promotion. You decided my work wasn't interesting, so you never bothered to learn about it. That's not true, Mom protested. It is true. When I got my clearance upgrade 3 years ago, I tried to explain what it meant. Dad said, "That's nice, honey," and immediately asked Madison about her new apartment. When I briefed my first congressional committee, I mentioned it at Christmas dinner. You literally said, "That sounds boring," and moved on. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We didn't realize it was such a big deal. Because you didn't ask. You assumed. You created this version of me that fit your narrative: struggling government employee, unsuccessful daughter, family embarrassment. And you never questioned it because it was easier to believe I was failing than to acknowledge you didn't understand my success. So what now? Madison asked. You're just going to cut us off forever? I don't know, I said honestly. What I know is that you uninvited me from Thanksgiving because I didn't meet your standards. You were ashamed to have me meet Derek. You decided I was an embarrassment to the family. We said we're sorry. Mom cried. Are you sorry you did it, or are you sorry you got caught? Silence. That's what I thought. I started to close the door.
Wait, Dad said.
What do you want from us? How do we fix this? I paused. I want you to understand why what you did was wrong. Not because Derek found out who I really am, but because you should have valued me regardless of what I do for a living. I want you to acknowledge that you dismissed me, compared me unfavorably to Madison, and excluded me from a family event because you decided I wasn't good enough. We never said you weren't good enough, Mom protested. You said I was embarrassing. That having me at Thanksgiving would make Madison look bad. What else does that mean? No one answered. When you can actually acknowledge what you did, not justify it, not minimize it, but actually own it, then maybe we can talk. Until then, I need space. I closed the door. They knocked for 5 more minutes. I didn't answer. Eventually, they left. 2 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten from my father.
Kira.
Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking since Thanksgiving. We've been talking to a family therapist, trying to understand where we went wrong. You were right. We dismissed your work because we didn't understand it. We compared you to Madison because her success was visible and easy to comprehend. We could brag about her job, her apartment, her lifestyle. Your work was complicated and classified and, frankly, intimidating. We took the easy path. We focused on Madison because her accomplishments made sense to us. We minimized your achievements because they made us feel inadequate. We didn't know how to talk about top-secret clearances or congressional testimony, so we just didn't. That's not an excuse. That's an explanation. And it's not good enough. We were wrong to uninvite you from Thanksgiving. We were wrong to prioritize Madison's comfort over your inclusion. We were wrong to treat you like an embarrassment when you've spent your career serving your country in ways we can't even fully understand. I don't know if you'll forgive us. I don't know if you should. But I want you to know that we're trying to do better. We're educating ourselves about what you do. I've been reading about defense procurement and the clearance process. Your mother has been learning about congressional oversight procedures. We should have done this years ago. We should have asked questions and shown interest and made you feel valued. We didn't, and that failure is ours, not yours. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry it took losing you for me to say it.
Dad.
I read the letter 3 times.
It was a start.
Not a resolution, but a start. I wrote back.
Dad.
Thank you for the letter. I appreciate the honesty. I need you to understand something. The hurt isn't just about Thanksgiving. It's about 10 years of being dismissed, compared, and minimized. It's about being the daughter you mentioned as an afterthought. It's about watching you celebrate Madison's every accomplishment while treating mine as irrelevant. The Thanksgiving uninvitation was just the moment I couldn't ignore it anymore. I don't know how to rebuild this relationship.
I don't know if I want to.
But I'm willing to try if you're willing to do the work. Real work. Not just apologies, but actual change in how you see me and value me. I'm not asking you to understand my job. I'm asking you to respect that it matters, even if you don't understand it. I'm asking you to treat me like I have value beyond how I compare to Madison. If you can do that, maybe we can find our way forward.
Kira.
It's been 6 months since Thanksgiving. My relationship with my family is slowly rebuilding. Emphasis on slowly. We have dinner once a month. The conversations are careful, deliberate. My parents ask about my work now, general questions I can answer without violating security protocols. They listen. They don't compare me to Madison. Madison and I are cordial but not close. She's dating someone new. She doesn't mention her career as much around me. I think Derek's departure taught her something, though she'd never admit it. The real change came 2 months ago, when I received the promotion. I'm now a member of the Senior Executive Service. At 32, I'm one of the youngest people ever to reach this level in defense procurement. The position comes with significant responsibility, a substantial salary increase, and direct access to senior Pentagon leadership. The swearing-in ceremony was attended by the Undersecretary of Defense, 3 senators, and a dozen senior military officers. I invited my family. They came. I saw my father's face when the Undersecretary spoke about my exceptional service and dedication to national security. I saw my mother's tears when Senator Richardson mentioned my critical role in modernizing defense procurement. I saw Madison actually look proud. After the ceremony, my father hugged me for a long time. "I'm sorry I didn't see this before," he whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't know." "You could have asked," I said. "I know. And I should have. I promise I'll do better." It's not perfect. It's not fixed. Years of dismissal and comparison don't evaporate with one apology or one ceremony. But it's something. Last week, I ran into Derek Morrison at a coffee shop in Georgetown. "Kira. Hey, how are you?"
Good.
"You?" "Really good, actually. I'm seeing someone new. She's a teacher. Very different from Madison." I smiled. "I'm happy for you. I heard about your promotion. Senior Executive Service at 32. That's incredible. Thank you. How's your family handling it?" "Better than before. We're working on it." He nodded. "That's good. You deserve people who see your value. So do you." We talked for a few more minutes, then went our separate ways. I thought about that conversation as I walked back to my office at the Pentagon. About value and visibility. About the difference between success that's easy to see and success that matters even when it's hidden. My family had needed my success to be visible before they could value it. Derek had needed to see the proof before he could recognize the injustice. But I'd always known my worth. That was the real difference. I didn't need a congressional testimony or a promotion ceremony or a news article to know I was building something important. I didn't need external validation to understand my value. My family's dismissal hurt. Their exclusion stung. But it didn't change what I knew about myself. I was a senior leader in the United States defense establishment. I worked on programs that protected national security. I briefed senators and generals. I influenced decisions that affected millions of people. I was exactly who I needed to be. And whether my family saw it or not, whether Madison understood it or not, whether anyone acknowledged it or not, I was successful. Not because of the title or the salary or the ceremony, but because I'd built a career based on service, competence, and dedication to something larger than myself. That was the real story. Not the Thanksgiving uninvitation. Not Derek's intervention. Not the dramatic revelation. The real story was that I'd spent 10 years quietly doing important work while my family dismissed me. And I'd done it anyway. Without recognition, without celebration, without anyone noticing. That's the kind of success that matters. That's the kind of success that lasts. And that's the kind of success that was mine all along, whether anyone else saw it or not. This Thanksgiving, I'm hosting.
Small gathering.
My parents, Madison, Aunt Rachel, Uncle Tom. No drama. No performance.
Just family.
Madison asked if she could bring her new boyfriend.
I said yes.
Not because I've forgiven everything. Not because everything is fixed. But because I've learned something important. I don't need to prove my worth anymore. I don't need dramatic revelations or external validation or perfect justice. I just need to be myself. And if my family can accept that, really accept it, without comparisons or conditions, then maybe we have a future together. If they can't, I'll be okay. Because I learned something else this year. The people who uninvite you don't get to define you. The people who dismiss you don't determine your value. The people who try to make you small don't get to limit your growth. You do that yourself. And I chose to be exactly who I am. Top secret clearance, congressional testimony, and all.
The end.
Sometimes the most powerful response to being dismissed is simply continuing to be excellent at what you do. My family thought I was an embarrassment. I was actually briefing the Senate. They thought I was unsuccessful. I was protecting national security. Derek's intervention forced them to see the truth. But the truth was there all along. I was always enough. They just weren't looking.